PlugInGuru Wiki Video.
Hi there, and welcome to a new PlugInGuru video. My name is John Skippy Limcool, and I hope you like that new introduction. That was hand-drawn animation by a dear friend of mine now that I've never met, named Jeffrey Martell, who did the interface for MegaMacho. And then I scored it to sound. So, give you power, man. That's what this is all about. Give you guys tools to play with. So, MegaMacho is what we're here to look at. We're going to be doing, this is like the video owner's manual. I'm going to do it in two parts. The first part's going to be installation, a little talk about the outputs, talking about the kits, the layouts of the instruments. There's kits and there's maps, and I want you to know the difference between the two, and then a brief moment with multis. And then part two, we're going to take a look at all the parameters in the actual MegaMacho interface and talk about some of the fun advanced things you can do in the interface. It's much more powerful than it looks. Real quickly, this video and this library and everything is sponsored and produced because of the support you guys provide to my website by buying my patches. I could not have created MegaMacho without you guys buying my libraries. That's how business works. You guys bought the libraries. It gave me the money to be able to hire Jeffrey to do the animation at the beginning, to do the interface for MegaMacho, for me to hire someone to do the script for Kontakt, because I'm not a script Kontakt kind of program. I don't have the time to dig into that kind of computer language that you require to create the masterpiece that is MegaMacho. So PlugInGuru and your support, thank you very much, is what has made all of this happen. So thank you. Make sure you go to my Facebook page. There's some real fun things that are going to start happening with the Facebook page. Because with MegaMacho, we're going to start sharing patches, I hope. We're going to have a competition in September, I believe. And so join the Facebook page if you haven't. And then what we need to do is just, let's dive in. So here we go. Kontakt 5 is what you need to use MegaMacho. If you don't own the full version of Kontakt 5, you can get the free version from here. nativeinstruments.com. Just go up here and say Kontakt 5 player right here, and you can get the free player. Now the main difference is that there's a lot of things that you can get in and change in the full version that you don't have access to with the free Kontakt player. It's just a player for the most part. Although there is a trick. Make sure that you get to this page here where you can get the 185. It's like 500 megabytes for the full Kontakt 5 player to install. There's a separate 550 megabytes for sample libraries that they will give you to play with, so that you have something fun to play with this really cool new plugin, right? Then there's another page that you can go to where you can get the what's called the demo content. And what this does, and a lot of people don't know about this, so let me share it with you. This allows you to go to the search browser and type in demo, and it will list all of these patches. Let's pop it up so you can see it real quick. There's these things from different libraries. There's a cello ensemble, Mellotron male choir. These are all demo, and what they do is when you load them, they actually are able to toggle something inside the free Kontakt player so that it tricks itself and turns itself into the full version of Kontakt 5. And at this point, you can now go edit, and you can look at all the effects and all the EQ and all the filter types and all the different things you can do inside of it. It pops up the edit tool wrench and stuff like that. Only for 15 minutes, so it's just a brief demo. But it gives you a little taste to see if you want to go deeper into the Kontakt world, which I would highly recommend considering. So many films and so many composers use this as the backbone. It's so flexible and very powerful, and there's so many incredible sample libraries for it that it's really become the apex of sample library play kind of plugins right now, in my opinion. Also, if you have downloaded and registered Kontakt 5 Player, and you've bought MegaMacho drums or any of the other libraries that are supported to work with the Kontakt 5 Player, you can go to a page here and get the whole list of companies. If you've bought one of those libraries, you are now eligible for the crossgrade, and that allows you to get it for retail is $389, but you can get it for $249. So it gives you a chance to save money by buying a library from one of us that are doing a deal with Native Instruments to have it show up inside of the Kontakt player. So make sure you follow that up and check all that out. So you have to install that stuff first before you get to this next step. So if you don't have Kontakt 5 or Kontakt 5 Player on your sequencing universe, then don't buy MegaMacho drums, because it's only for Kontakt 5 or the Kontakt 5 Player. There's no WAV files to load into something else. It's all encapsulated. It's all data compressed. It's all optimized to work just with this interface, because there's so much more power in this interface than you just triggering a sample in your sequencer. We're trying to do much more than that. So. Okay, so you have purchased MegaMacho drums, which I say humbly thank you very much. And you have downloaded it, and it's sitting here on your hard drive, and you've unzipped it, and you've installed either the full version of Kontakt 5, or you have installed and authorized the Kontakt 5 Player. You're ready for the next step. Now, this folder you can put anywhere. So when you first install it, it looks like this. Without this showing up, MegaMacho's not there, so it's actually more like this. And then you say Add Library, and you select MegaMacho drums, and it has everything there that it needs when you say Choose to have a pop-up, boom, as a library right here. So when you hit the Activate button, as you can see, it pops up a place where you put in that serial number, and you say Activate. Now it works. And everything happens just the way it is. Right here where the little I is, you can use this to quickly open up the manual if you want to reference something. You also have right here a little settings thing, and don't remove the library. If you do, then you just have to hit Add Library and add it again. Open Containing Folder is where you would go, and now you can open up the grooves, for example, and now drag MIDI files in. So it's a fast way to get to where the MIDI grooves are at, unless you put them in a different location, which you can do. All right, and let's also talk about outputs real quick. The output is right here. And by default, I'll just give you a little bit of the trick side here. By default, I have it set to a limiter, because it's very possible to make sounds distort. And the limiter puts a cap on it, and I tried to set the level so that it's really hot, nice and huge sounding, but not distorting. And if you want pristine samples and you're going to use outside limiting, you can go over here and say change this to one of your output configurations, say stereo, and now it's no longer, you won't hear it on this kit quite as much. Let's go to something like Maximus, which is a really big sounding kit. It's a little softer. If you're listening while it's playing a sequence and you go between the two, you will hear a difference. And it's very subtle, but it can be a difference, just so you know. Now, the other thing about this, when it's set to limiter, the sound shows up over here on the displays for the meters. If you set it to stereo, it's now no longer looking to these meters, and it's going just straight to your meters of yours, down here inside of your, whatever your DAW is. So now you're responsible for setting levels and making sure everything is okay over here instead of inside of this interface. And there's a couple of tricks I want to show you that too, but first of all, let's cover this. So you have output configurations. How do you configure this, and how do you make sure that it works with your sequencer of choice? Let's just call it that, right? So right here, you can go to Kontakt 5, and here's the output configurations that Kontakt has. And I typically use the 8 stereo, 8, and it takes a second. There we go. It's reconfigured everything inside of Logic to be looking to 8 stereo and 8 mono tracks from this. Now, in order for that to be a perfect marriage, you have to go here to the output button. And I currently only have 4 stereo. So I actually need to go add channels and add 1, 2, 3, 4 more channels of 2, which is stereo. And it tacks them onto the end, but there they are. So once you've done any kind of configuring to the outputs, it's really important. Either when you hit OK, that you click here that says make this your default configuration, or you go under here and you say batch. Let's see, I can't read with my dark glasses on, so close, such small text. So you want to make sure that you go under this tab and say save current output state as the default for, you can say all formats, or just, let's say we're doing audio units, so we could say audio unit plugins. So it has saved that state. So now when I close Kontakt and open it up, every time now, when I go to the outputs, it's going to give, oh wait, you know what, you got to close the plugin now. No plugin. Now we go back to Kontakt 5, and we say 8 stereo, 8 mono. And now MegaMacho drums should be able to see all of those 4 additional stereo outputs I added. There they are at the end of the list. So I need to reload Kontakt 5, and we go to multi-outputs, 8 stereo, 8 mono. So it pops up. Now, I want to point out something. So let's say we go to Mega Maximus. Right now, I can, it's currently in the stereo output, right? See right here? And if I change it to stereo 1, it's still in the stereo output, but now it's not going through the limiter. And if I hit the plus button, and I go over here and I make sure that this is assigned to stereo 3 and 4, right now it's in stereo, and when I go over here and go to stereo 2, now it's going to 3 and 4. However, I want to show you something interesting. So if I change this to be not output 3 and 4, but output 5 and 6, it defaults back to stereo. Why did it do that? Because right here on the outputs, see right here? This is where you determine the actual output flow for each of these. And see all these dashes? That means they're not connected yet. So this one here, I need to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This needs to be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stereo 3. Stereo 3. Now, oh, will it work without me closing? No. 5, 6. This has to be 7, 8. Stereo here. Stereo there. And you can hit the little, go to the next one, and the mono 5. Mono 6. See how we're setting this up? Okay, so welcome back. I've reconfigured just the first 4 of the 8 outputs, and I've just configured the first 4 of the stereo outputs. I have not configured the second set of mono or the second set of stereos. They're still showing that there's no assignments to them, so they're currently not active. They're not going to work. Now, before I close this, you have to make sure that you go over here and you say save output section as a default for audio units, or for all, let's just say all formats, because that makes sense. When I'm calling it up as a standalone, it's just going to be stereo, but they're there if for some reason I was using something that was able to do more. So now let's call it up one last time. 8 stereo, 8 mono. So it saved those, so they are here. So when I call up a kit, let's say Maximus again. So here's my list of outputs. Limiter is with a limiter. Stereo 1 will show up. Now stereo 2 is going to be no sound. Well, it's just stereo because there's no output assigned to it. And then stereo 3 will show up all of a sudden right here because I went down here to Kontakt 5 to the out to this what it's supposed to listen to and changed it. Mono works the same way. You just have to set it to be a mono track right here and choose the input you want. Now it's a list of mono inputs. Okay? So you have to make sure that you set up Kontakt 5 both inside of your DAW, love that word, and that you've set up your outputs here and that you've clicked your output assignments here, close it and reopen it for it to confirm and glue everything together, right? Make sure before you close this that you go save current standard as the default for all formats. Okay, so that's the basics on the outputs. It's a little tricky, but it's worth exploring to get it to work the way you want it to work. One last thing I want to show you. So as I explained, you have the limiter mix where the sound is going through a limiter to control the outputs from distorting. You can't do this with the Kontakt 5 player, but if you have the full version of Kontakt, when you hit the edit tool wrench, now you're looking at all the parameters used to make up the MegaMacho interface. All this stuff is described here. That's why there's EQ, high pass filter, low pass filter, the distortion, the transient designer, lo-fi, that's all here. The synth effects is where you find the convolution, reverb, and the delays. Right here under insert effects is where you find the limiter. And you'll notice that there's like 6 or 7 boxes empty. You can fill these up if you wish with additional cool effects. And let's do that. Let's go real quickly to the effect list just by clicking the little plus. And here's all the effects available as an insert effect. This is one place when you're clicking up here on these guys, you don't have access to reverb and you don't have access to a couple other of the effects. But by insert effects, you have access to everything. We could go to the tape saturator and call this up. There we go. So bring up. Go high quality if you want even more DSP to be eaten up, but it sounds good. And this can roll off that high end a little bit. Now, if you want to assure that it doesn't distort, you can go and move the effects in front of the limiter because it goes from the left to the right to the outputs. So now the tape has changed places to the limiter. And if I wanted, I could add another effect. I could add delay. I could add whatever I wished to add. And there you go. Oh, one quick tip also. When you're dealing with other parameters, delay included, where it says the milliseconds, if you click right here where it says milliseconds, you can actually now see timing events for it to be synced to host. So if you don't click anything and it's like this, then it's set to free time. But if you click here, you can say to quarter notes, and now it's going to be synced to your clock. All right, so now let's take a look at the kits. Whoa! Whoa! So if I come over here and open this up, and I gotta make the interface go away for a second. And let's go to trap. Take Blizzard Trap just for fun and drag it over here. So I've got Blizzard Trap in here, and what's kind of fun with MIDI is that even though this says that its default tempo is supposed to be 98, I've got it at, let's say, 135 just for fun, and it plays. And so this is one of the kits. Real quickly, there's two things in the library. There's kits and there's maps. Kits all follow the same basic note assignments. In fact, I'll pop up a thing where you see it right here. There's a whole bunch of kicks, a whole bunch of snares, and then a general MIDI map an octave up. And this is a system I helped Korg design like 20 years ago for workstations. And we still use it when we're designing the kits for Chronos and for Cross and stuff like that. You always know this is going to always be a tambourine of some sort. Always going to be a cowbell. These are go-go's. 3 shakers. And triangles. And some kits, if you change to another kit, like a Tom Obama, this kit, the go-go's, they're not a go-go's, but they're cool and they're rhythmic, and so they work in a cool way, right? And the triangles, they're not triangles, but they kind of sound like that. And so when you play the grooves, they will match and play. So change to the kits, and they all work. So there's 13 kits plus 3 shadows that we'll talk about in a minute. Here's your vintage. These are all really cool stuff. Hip hop. Psycho's aggressive. Some of the samples you're hearing, some of these samples like that, that, those are over 20 years old. An M1 came into Korg's offices in Canoga Park while I was working there doing voicing in a Wanger room in the back. And something had happened to it bad. And it was not playing all 8 bits or 12 bits of audio. It was like 6 or 4 bits, something like that. And it sounded really mangled and distorted and stuff. So I sampled the daylights out of it. So I have both dry samples, which are here. So that's along with, that's one of them. So those are 20-year-old samples that I've been just saving and waiting for the day for them to be shared. And here it is. Yay! Isn't that funny? So as you can see, these kits, you can change. And the personality of the kit dictates how it's going to sound, but the groove so here, this is what the kit was originally designed for, was a trap, right? So we need it to be 98 beats per minute. There you go. Sound quality is great. You can't do that with loops. That's not how it works. So that kind of flexibility is what makes this very powerful. These kits in this folder, the kits drums folder, there's panning right here. There's a little bit of compression or volume changes on things, but there's nothing else applied. No glitching, no lo-fi, no compressing for the most part. A couple drum sounds, I wanted them to be popped up so they sounded right in the mix. For the kicks especially, they got a little bit of treatment, but nothing radical, nothing at all. That will be found inside program kits, where there's just a ton of really crazy, cool stuff like change these kits and it's really crazy. Got the glitch stuff happening. All right, so the shadows. What's the difference between a kit and a shadow? I was envisioning this interface with all the tools that you had. And usually when you're dealing with reverb, it's the last thing in the chain that you add, and it just sits there. And you don't do much to it. And the whole concept behind this whole library is fun and new. I want new stuff. I want people to try new things. I want new things to be experimented with. It's like a science lab. Go and do this. What if I do this? What if I do that? And you come up with some really cool stuff to put to a song. Shadows, I took 3 of the kits. Anabox, which is the dubstep kit, and MegaMacho. These kits, I sampled. Here, let's go to probably the Anabox fulls. Nice. They're all nice. It takes a minute to load. I sampled all 61 notes of the Anabox kit. After I'd mapped it out and designed it, I sampled it through a reverb I created using some special plugins in Logic, and ended up with this 12-second long, really cool sounding reverb for every note. And if I close this so that it shrinks the interface, and if I go out of shadows and I go over here and I say add Anabox, here's the dry kit. So let's hit solo. So you're just and then you combine a little bit softer version of the shadow kit. With these really cool, long, just glassy sounds. And why would I do that? Why would you have reverb as samples? Come on, class. Why? What would you do? Here's why. because now I can go crazy with the MegaMacho interface. I can take, let's have these guys do a pitchy G. I could add distortion. I could shorten them up. My computer's going crazy. So now it's short. It's all new stuff and all sorts of possibilities. So the shadows are ambient versions of the dry kits, 3 of them. But what's fun, because I set up these rules as to where kicks and snares and stuff are, I could take Maximus, which is a totally different kit than the Anabox, right? Let's turn up Anabox so it matches the power of Maximus. And let's go over here and open this up. Turn off distortion. And let's glitch this. Oh, so that's kits. Lots of fun, following standard basic mapping rules very loosely. Don't expect things to be perfect. Not everyone has a go-go's. Not everyone has a shaker. It's going to be something else. But it matches kind of in the loose family of that type of sound. You're not going to get a long explosion sound where there's supposed to be a triangle open sound, for example. Okay? Maps is the other part of instruments. Maps don't follow rules. They're not compatible with each other. When you open up the maps, you first have menus. So these definitely don't follow the rules. This is just all the snares or all the sub basses or all the kicks or all the hi-hats in one place. So for those of you that like to work in producer mode where you just are transposing your snare drum part or transposing the track up to find that snare drum to go through and find the right snare, you've got lots of menus of snare drums to choose from all these different styles of music. So there you go. Now, Maps drums are the drum kits that don't follow the rules of kits, but sometimes they do loosely. I try to put bass drums down low, snare drums, and then other stuff up the keyboard. Ambi Cave, I showed you earlier those drums that were from 20 years ago. This is another library of drums from a while ago. Same sessions, but I had an Alesis XTC reverb, I think, at the time. And I ran the same sounds through this. So you got really cool. Some of these are sample manipulated things up top at the very top range, but down here is all. Dead Space is a similar kit of really ambient. This is more film oriented. Stuff like that. Damaged percussion. Redmatica's KeyMap Pro has a really cool time stretch function that instead of playing back at 100%, if you change the playback speed to like 5%, you get really cool broken percussion. So there you go. The impulsive bits, these are actually used in the convolution reverbs as impulse responses. So they are here for you to play with. Now the loop groove bits, I've created 4 drum loop libraries before this. This is my first drum kit library, but I've created Skippy's Big Bad Beats, Skippy's Noise Box, Beat Breakers, and on my website you can buy Beatropolis. Those 4 libraries all got put through what's called the groove control process that we developed in partnership with Spectrasonics. They headed the process where we use recycle and additional editing after recycle to make individual samples of loops and then play back with a MIDI file that loop with the MIDI file matching what it's supposed to be, and now it plays back the loop. Well, here's those samples without the MIDI files. And not all the samples are there, but it's mapped across the keyboard a whole bunch of different things. So So there's 5 menus of just bits, little pieces that you can use to make completely new grooves. All sorts of stuff. Lots and lots of fun. Vocal, drum bits. These are, in a minute I'm going to show you some auto-tuned vocal bits. These are pieces that didn't get the auto-tune process, but they got some other processing to them. So it's all the consonants and stuff from a whole bunch of conversation, and they're fun to put overdub and glitch. To do all sorts of things. There's so much to do with this. So that's what you will find inside of the maps. And then when you go to maps pitched, when I was doing those impulse responses, I found that orchestra hits and synth chords and all sorts of things made really cool things to put the drums through. So I recorded okay. If you go over here and you set it to drum instead of global, you can change the pitch. So let's give it a soft. Turn on glitch. Tune down. Go crazy. There's all sorts of stuff you can now do. And if you run out of notes of polyphony, double click where it says max right here and say 400. No more polyphony problems. Now these Vox pitch bits. These are, I found all these interviews with sports people, all sorts of stuff that you can't tell who they are now. And I will never tell who they are. But I ran them through AutoTune. And I tuned them to C or G. So this is the females. And you can do that same, set it to drum. And go crazy. Melodies all over the place. Can't wait to see what everybody comes up with. And then male. So you have that to play with. So that's the match. That's the basic heart of the library default. And then you get to programmed, and this is where we put stuff that's crazy, using all the cool things that are available here. I need to take my glasses off so I can read these a little better. Tacky pitch is cool for the... You've got 2-bit kits. You got some decay stuff with velocity, which are really cool. This is really fun. There's parameters down here for velocity, and the D one is to decay. So if you take the drums, make it really short. By velocity, you can change the decay time. Low end dub, there's so many kits, so you have to play around there. There's just crazy, crazy fun stuff. Layers is something that was more experimental. I wanted to show what you could do. And I'll do a video specifically on layers to teach you how to do this. Basically, this has, if you go to the group editor, 4 different kits loaded right now. Maximus, Macho, Beast, and Anabox are all loaded. There's this group start options, and I set it to round robin, and then I numbered each one of these to be a number in sequence. And round robin means that it plays this group, then it goes to the next group, then it goes to the next group, to the next group. It's how you can get it to where you have a violin and you play 5 different takes of it, and each of those 5 takes ends up being a group. And now you can round robin that violin, so each time you play a note, you can have it play a different sample. So and since it's 4, it makes a really cool techno. So if you're a fan of the dead mouse concept, where you have something simple that's just a repetitive, cool, weird thing, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff just with that. Then I said, oh, there's also these settings for randomize. So now every time you play a note, it's 4 kits, but it's random. You don't know what you're going to get each time. And then other experiments, things with all of them at once. For big stuff. If MegaMacho isn't big enough, layer 4 on top of each other, right? On the mod wheel, so you can have a groove playing. And by using my mod wheel, and then finally, I loaded a kit where I was experimenting with what if you had something on the mod wheel that did an effect. So bring the mod wheel up, you get reverb. Kits like that. So all sorts of stuff to play with there. The maps, this is where there's some really creative, especially if you do film and sound design and ambient dub things, this is where you're going to have a good time. This is getting into using all of the parameters and all the tools inside of MegaMacho with samples and special maps that are there. This is the mod wheel shadow sweep, which is really fun because it's really fast. Let's find. As you bring up the mod wheel, it slows down. Very fun. There's rubbery blips. There's shadow. Here's shadow pitch glitch up, which is really fun for. So the shadows that I showed earlier can be used for sweeps. So you know these libraries you buy where it's just a bunch of sweeps, right? Well, now you have hundreds and hundreds of sweeps, and you could go add LFOs to the filters and stuff. That'll be an advanced. We'll do an advanced thing on sweeps as well, I think. The music boxes are kind of unique. These are using kits and then setting them to that setting I showed in the first video, where you could set it to tone machine and then adjusting things so that it's like a happy accident, find the right notes to make a melody. Go crazy. The tone hit is another one where that's orchestra hits. It's going. So we're not just going drumland because there's so much more we could do. So we wanted to try some things. Hive is really fun. Stuff like that. And then special bonus. This is bonus stuff. I'll show you these first. These are the shadow tone, I call them. These are samples from the shadow kits that had pitch, that transposed across the keyboard really well. So if you hold them down, 13 seconds. But you can make them short. And I didn't do a lot of processing to these because it's so easy to go in and add reverb and go crazy. You can do that. Different sounds. Okay, so there's a lot of those. And then up here are some kind of unique things. I want to do a library. So much of music is happening now where you guys are not playing the keyboard like I am. You're sitting with a mouse and you're setting up a grid to do something. And it doesn't have to match pitch on the keyboard in the way that we're used to having things work. So I tried something as an experiment. This is an experiment, and I think it worked pretty well. And if you guys want to give me feedback, please. What I did is I came up with a chord progression that's like in 45 billion hit songs, right? Right? So I'm just playing chromatic to get that. So this whole range from here is chords. And you can play different orders. All sorts of stuff. Who knows what combinations you can come up with between those 13 or 12 notes. So I took this. I was like, well, let's do the synth by itself for the next C. Down here's a sub bass. So up here's the strings by themselves. And I built them up to be even bigger, more molto big. And then the last octave, I created a big fat sawtooth detune in Salenth and sampled it. So it's bonus. This is bonus stuff to play with. And I might make a whole library of a whole bunch of that stuff. It's kind of like you got these, I call them kind of the combos or the production kits where it's got a song is basically done for you, but you're kind of stuck because it's audio. It's playing back this whole phrase and you can't change it. Here you can change it because just play in a different sequence, the notes, and now it's doing something different. So that's the concept for mixed up. 10th chord is another EDM tribute because there's so much stuff going on. It's a 10th chord. So you can write 5 billion more pop songs that sound like this. So you can basically go crazy with playing with 10 chords. Chopped up synth bits. I'd make vocoded things and make them become rhythmic by having them triggered by drums, record that as audio and then chop them up and recycle, and then sample edit them to clean them up, and here they are. Again, all the processing, so like we could go drum, so we can edit individually. And now you have cool elements to put into dance tracks. So that's all bonus. And then the bass by itself was so good, I had to... and we set up the distortion, so it's a cool... So just a few bonus things. And then multis is the other part of the library. We have both single multis where I've created the shadow and the matching dry kit for the shadow kits. And I use the mediums. And if you want a longer one, all you have to do is go to the kits, to the shadows, go to Anna box and drag over what you want. If you want it to be full, just drag it on top of which one you want to replace, and it will replace that one. That just didn't seem usable. So I used the medium, and I probably processed it and changed it a little bit. Yeah. So the multis of matches, here's MegaMacho with its matching shadow. Multis replace everything to the right. This whole box, the whole sandbox of sounds, whatever it might be, get replaced when you load a new multi. So just get ready to say yes all the time to replacing Anda. And then we did some fun stuff because since they're separate kits, this gives you a lot more flexibility than if I just did layers in a program. You can process the shadows separately from the dry kits. You can go to the dry kits, turn on glitch and all sorts of weird things. And we did that for some of these like Winterfell. All sorts of So if you're into the ambient dub thing and the ambient hip hop, stuff like that, this kind of stuff is really fun to play with. So multis is kind of an area that's going to grow in the coming months. It's part of the library that got a little bit of support, but not a lot of support. So we'll add more support as we go along because this is a growing entity as we go along here. But the kits themselves are rocking and ready to go. And the interface is rocking and ready to go. And there's a lot of cool grooves. So this ends part 1, and part 2 we'll look at all the parameters inside of one of these instances of MegaMacho, and look at some of the more advanced stuff you can do with it. So hope you enjoyed, and July 1st the library comes out, so 3 days away. Can't wait. All right, talk to you later. Bye.